but of course then it has some negative things. So of course it's going to overheat your tires. Depending on the track, sometimes having that extra power is good for the straight line only. But then when you go on corners, you don't want to have that extra power because it overheats your tires. So it's not the best thing. So it's kind of another strategy that goes into play. And then in the future, maybe even at the end of the year, this year, we will have pit stops with the battery recharge. So that's going to add even more strategy, and that would be quite cool.
Refill how's that going to be possible?
I still don't know how. They said it's going to come towards the end of the year. It's not 100% confirmed yet. If it's not this year, it's going to be next. But from what I heard, I think it's going to be like a proper pit stop. So you come in, you stop, and then they just plug you in the back. They have like a quick.
It's probably one of those superchargers, like Tesla supercharger.
Yeah. It's going to be weird. And then I think it's going to be like a 30-second stop. And they're going to recharge, I don't know, maybe 10, 15%.
Okay. So, and the attack mode, how do you choose like the time? How long do you want to use it?
The engineer. You generally do it before the race.
Okay. So it's planned before the race.
Yeah, but I mean, sometimes we have different strategy and then we can change it on the steering. So basically, if my engineer says we change of strategy, then you can change on the steering what you want to do. You want to do 1 minute and then 3 minutes or 3 and 1, or etc. etc. So you kind of change it, but you want to do it before because it's quite tricky to change it on the steering when you're racing and you have, all the monkeys behind trying to overtake you.
It's pretty hectic, the race, the Formula E race.
It's hectic because it's a lot of multitasking. That's what I found difficult at the beginning of my Formula E career. Now I got used to it, but it's like you're driving and you have 21 crazy guys and super, fast drivers behind you. Well, hopefully a few times behind me, 21 is quite good. Trying to overtake you, and at the same time you have the engineer saying, "Oh, change this and change that," and then you're like, "Man, I cannot keep up." You have so many things to do.
But in Formula One, they also change a lot of things during the race, right?
Yeah, they do. But I think it's just until you get used to those kind of things, then it happens more natural. Like, for me, for sure, at the beginning it's tricky. Half a year or a year on this. Then you just do it naturally,
And what is like a big part of the strategy in Formula E? Because like in Formula One, you can see like the tire swaps, tire management. Like you can. The stops are a big deal in Formula One. Like you change from a soft to a hard or whatever.
You can change fuel combination. You can change a lot of things. How much can you do in?
How much can you do in Formula E?
600 different options to change on the steering.
Wow.
So just on the steering, we can change 600 different things.
On the steering, but
on
like,
the steering,
like on the pressure or what? Like
like the car balance. For example, you can change the feeling of the car on entry of the corner, on middle of the corner, on exit of the corner. You can change your. You have sometimes traction control. We don't have, unfortunately, not yet. You can change your traction control. You can change the power modes when you go through attack. You can change how much energy you want to use when you're using attack. I mean. There's a lot. Braking, of course, you have like 3 different options on how to change your brake shape.
And you control all of that, or the engineers do it?
I mean, the driving side of things, so if the car does something and I want to change it, I do it myself. But then there is a lot of technical stuff on powers or strategies or etc. that you change. But in terms of, if we don't speak about just the steering, in terms of what's the strategy in the race, as I said earlier, it's just managing your batteries, because it's very sensible. Like it's very easy for you to overconsume. Let's say, for example, at the beginning of the race, that it happened to me at the beginning of my on my first 2 races in Formula E. You overconsume a little bit at the beginning, and then and later in the race, you're like, shit. I need to save a lot more energy, and then everyone has good targets. Targets mean on the dash you have a target of whatever. For example, 1.40. As an energy target, so you can only use that 1.4 in a lap, and let's say you overconsume, you do 1.45 5 laps in a row at the beginning of the race. At the end of the race, when you will have a target of 135. That target, because you overconsume, it will go down. So if a guy behind did follow the targets every lap, his target at the end of the race is going to be higher than yours. So lower target, of course, is slower. So that happened to me sometimes. Like, for example, the last race in Cape Town, I consumed a lot middle of the race because I wanted to keep up with the guy in front of me. And then we kind of, both of us, because the guy in front of me also, we kind of shot a bullet in to ourselves, because at the end of the race, we were super slow because our targets were very slow, or very low. And then everyone behind, because they saved a lot of energy, they were like loads faster, like big difference. So it's really difficult how you manage your energy. The car tells you what to do, but it's not perfect. So at the beginning, you kind of freestyle. You kind of go with the flow and you try to follow the target. But of course, sometimes you want to defend, you overconsume, or sometimes the car ahead is far away, so you overconsume because you don't have the tow. I mean, it's a lot of tricky stuff and a lot of strategy that makes it.
What are the ways to save energy? Is basically on driving or setup. Like you can choose how much power the engine is giving, or what are the ways, or it's just driving?
Driving, I mean, you want to be driving as clean as possible. You don't want to be like sliding all over the place, because when you slide, the charge stops, kind of thing. Is kind of the front motors stop charging when you start sliding. Or if you lock up the wheels, the front motor, because nowadays we have front motors also, which recharge. So if you lock up, then the front motor will stop recharging. So it's a big loss.
You need the
speed, the wheel spinning. So driving as clean as possible, but of course you need to be fast, and driving fast is you need to be on the limit of sliding. And then also how to manage your energy, I would say, is just trying to follow your target. If you have a car in front, having the tow, what we've learned this year so far, and every driver have learned that, is when you have a tow, the closest you are to him, the less you will consume, because of course you have less drag. But that makes a big difference. Last year in the old car, it was a difference, but it wasn't that big. Now it's like a huge thing. So for example, I did the pole position in the last race. Of course I was really happy, but I knew that it wasn't the best place to be for the first half of the race, because I knew if I stay first the half of the race, the second or third or even fourth guy will have saved loads of energy. And at some point, he's going to be having higher tires, as I was saying earlier. So he's going to overtake me at some point, because I will have been consuming a lot more energy than him.
Of course.
Just because I don't have anybody in the front to cut the dirty air.
But there's less drag than in Formula 1, for example.
Yes, of course.
Right?
Loads more. But we have a lot more drag than the previous car. Reason why following, it helps a lot for energy management, because you consume a lot less. So it's kind of... Qualifying on pole, like for example here in Sao Paulo, having a tow, it will be very important, because if you're the sitting duck, let's say in the front, if you're P1, of course it's good, but if you're P1 the whole race and you have 4 or 5 cars just behind you, you know that he's going to overtake you at the end of the race, because he will have a lot more energy. Well, not a lot more, but he will have more energy than you.
So maybe it's part of the strategy, not stay in front.
Yeah, depends the track. Depending on the tracks. Here in Sao Paulo, I do think so. I mean, it's the first time for everybody, so we don't really know what's the best, but we all think that
here is gonna be a huge difference.
It's gonna be huge. It's only straight lines.
Did you see the track?
Well, I haven't.
Nobody told me it was in.
It's like only straight lines.
Right?
Yeah, straight.
Oh, you keep it there to memorize.
Yeah.
Let me show the camera here. Dá pra pôr aqui? It's all straight lines.
Straight line and then right. And it's straight and then right.
Oh, here's the Sambódromo.
There we go. It's hard to see, but
yeah, it's hard to see, but Google it.
Yeah, Google it. Google it. Sao Paulo E3. But in the Sambódromo, everyone says it's gonna be quite cool. That's where they do the
carnival.
The carnival.
Carnival is there. Yeah.
But I want to go and